Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. You join me on a cozy Sunday afternoon. I've got a cup of tea and I thought I would talk to you about one of my favourite topics, books. So if you've been watching the vlogs for the last couple of weeks, you'll know that for some reason, and I go in and out of phases like this and I have my entire life, at the moment I am so into reading, it's actually gone beyond the realm of like funny and into the realm of like a little bit crazy. I'm reading on average about 2 books a week at the moment, which is obviously a lot of books. I was that school kid who hid in the library and like just read every single break time. I thought I would share with you all the books that I've read so far in 2024 and the books that are still on my read list. Do you call them like TBRs? Don't know, as you can probably tell, I'm not massively a like book talker or booktube person. A little bit of backstory as to like my reading and my kind of shopping habits that get me to the books that I read. So my typical genre that I typically read is a thriller, a detective novel, or a kind of like sci-fi fantasy novel. If I had to pick authors that I read a lot of, it's authors like Peter James, Stephen King, Harlan Coben, those kinds of authors. Now, I read a lot of their books last year and the year before. There was a moment in time where I think I read about 6 Stephen King novels in a row. So I want a little bit of a break, which means my reading so far this year has been a little bit erratic, but it's been that way on purpose. I think I over-read the thriller genre last year. So I'm gonna go through these in no particular order. These are all the books that I've read so far in 2024. So the book that's on the top is Nicholas Searle's The Good Liar. I actually probably reviewed a fair number of these books scattered around vlogs, but not all of them. This is a book that I didn't understand for a little while. It's set over 2 different time zones. So like the current time, and then it flashes back to like earlier in his life. It took me a really long time to realise that was what was going on. It's about a man called Roy who is a con man, and he's about to do his last con before he like retires. So he's an old man and his con is a very lovely woman or old woman who has like some level of money that she's built up in her life, and he's trying to con her out of it so he can steal it. It then flashes back to like his younger life to like explain how he got into being like a con person in the first place. Problem is she's almost too easy to con, trying to work out why. So you can kind of see the end coming. I kind of predicted what the end was going to be, if I'm entirely honest. So I would say it was like a solid read. I liked it, I didn't love it. So I'd say it's like 3 stars. We're gonna go with 5 stars is like, oh my god, amazing. 4 stars, really solid read, would recommend. 3 stars, it was okay, I kind of enjoyed it. 2 stars, a bit naff. I don't think I've ever given anything 1 star, but. Next up, we have Nell Zink's Doxology. This is a book that I was reading as the clocks turned from 2023 into 2024. Not literally, I wasn't reading at midnight, but it's the book that I read between the 2 years. Honestly, I think it was very well written, but there was no like discernible start, middle and end. It effectively follows the life of 2 people who were in the music industry. They then have a child. The child's uncle is still a musician. There's like 911 is involved. Someone dies. It's one of those books where I just couldn't really work out where it was going and like what the point of it was. So therefore I just really struggled to read it. So I think to me this is like a 2-star book. This book proper makes me laugh. I tend to pick up books either in charity shops or at discount bookstores like The Works. I pick up very few books new, and so I picked this one up in a charity shop. I think it was like £1.50 or something. And I didn't know it was a thing until I took it to work, and I was reading it on the way to work, took it out of my bag and put it on my desk while I was getting other stuff out of my bag. And people were like, oh my god, I used to read that book at school. And I was like, since when is this a book? And apparently it's a film. I've clearly been living under a rock. But this is Holes by Louis Sasha. And I picked it up because I thought the blurb was really, really random. It's basically a boy who gets sent to a juvenile detention centre where they just have to dig holes, like all the time. And I just thought it was such a weird plot line. And I can see why it's a school read. It's one of those books where like simultaneously nothing happens and quite a lot happens. I just enjoyed it. It was good. 3 stars. We then have, and there's a couple of books like this in here, books that I read from book club at work. So at work we have a book club. They meet every like 6 weeks or so, and the books that we read in book club aren't necessarily books I would naturally pick up on my own, but it's also what's pushed me to like read books that wouldn't genuinely be my like genre. So I think book club book is what sort of pushed me into reading all these kind of like random shenanigans. The book that we read at the beginning of the year was Kylie Reid's Such a Fun Age. Now, I liked this book, but I swear to God, there are books in here that I really enjoyed. They were trying to talk about something very serious, but didn't really get into the topic deep enough that you actually got out of it what I think the book was trying to get you to get. It's basically about a nanny slash babysitter who looks after a young daughter of a rich white couple, and she's a black student. I think she's a student, but she's a black young woman. She's out on night out with her mates, she's drunk. The parents call her up in a panic saying that something's going on at the house and they need her to come and take the child out of the house so that the child doesn't see what's going on. So she obviously tells them that she's been out, she's been drinking, they say it's fine. She picks up the child, takes the child to the supermarket, and the security guard stops her thinking that she's like abducted the child. And the whole thing about it is it's about race, and I'm not saying that it's not, but I think you also have to question that a young woman has a sort of 5-ish-year-old child and she's dressed like she's going on a night out and she's drunk. I feel like that's just as much of an issue. The book then does go on to have some like really creepy storylines, but I liked it. I just don't think it went deep enough into the issues that it was trying to say. Next up we have It Ends at Midnight by Harriet Tice. I picked this one up from The Works. It's such a book that a shop like The Works would sell. Like it was like basic bitch thriller, and I actually found it to be one of the most stressful books I have ever read. You know when like you can read someone's life falling apart in a book and it makes you think like, oh my god, my life could fall apart in exactly the same way? It's kind of how I felt about this book. She gets framed for things that aren't her fault. She makes a mistake as a young adult slash teenager that's like following her. It's honestly so not relaxing, and the twist at the end, I did not see it coming. I actually really enjoyed this book. I'd say for as a trashy read as it is, 4 stars. Speaking of trashy, this is Daisy Buchanan's Insatiable, which is a kind of like smutty 50 Shades of Grey style read. Like inappropriate sex scenes, but also there is sort of an underlying storyline. It's about a woman called Violet. The main character is called Violet. She works in a job that she's not really enjoying. She has these like Tinder dates that are a little bit naff, and she meets this couple who offer her a job but then actually just bring her into their relationship as like a throuple, who then also go to swingers parties. Like it's quite a lot. I ended up having to read this book at home because it felt a little bit weird reading it on the tube, and I liked it. I mean, it was everything that it needed to be, you know, a little bit of smut, a little bit like, and I don't know if this is a weird thing to say, right? I really enjoyed the book's floppy. Do you get it? Like, I really enjoy a paperback book that's like floppy. The next book I read was Graham Moore's The Holdout. I honestly forgot all about this book. So it's about a woman called Maya who was on a jury 10 years before this book was set. And there's quite a famous case in America, fake case, but case in America where someone gets accused of murdering a child, and she convinces the jury to find that man innocent, but basically the entirety of America thinks he is guilty. So obviously when they get out, they find out that everyone thinks he was guilty, and there's this whole hoo-ha. 10 years later, they all get themselves back together for a reunion show that's clearly being aired on like one of the American TV shows, and one of the jury dies, and so then she gets committed or like accused of his murder, and obviously she hasn't done it, and it's following that story. I love these kinds of novels. They're like totally my kind of bread and butter, what I absolutely love to read. It was one of those books where you can kind of see where it was going, but you kind of couldn't. They kind of hinted to where it was going the entire way through, so if you were paying attention you could work it out. So for that reason I don't think it was like, oh my god, such a curveball. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was like the most incredible version of this book ever, but it's very much a comfort read for me. It's something I enjoy, something I've always loved reading. I'd say it's like 3.5 stars. Steve Kavanaugh's 50/50. This is the same author who wrote 13, which I read last year. I freaking love this person's novels. They're honestly like murder detective style novels we just cannot work out what's going to happen next. So this is about two daughters of a prolific public figure. I think he was a mayor, I can't remember. He's in the public eye and he gets murdered in his house, and the only two people in the house are the two daughters, and both the daughters ring 911 and say that the other daughter was the one that killed them. It then follows the two defense lawyers on either side, obviously defending their respective daughter against the murder of their father. And honestly, I was so convinced I knew who'd done it, like so convinced, and I was wrong. It's honestly so good. The curve at the end, I just did not see coming. 4 stars, loved it. I wouldn't say it's 5. Very few books to me are 5 stars, but I did really, really enjoy it. Probably 4.5. 4 was a bit harsh. 4.5 stars. Another book club book. This is The 7 Husbands. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The person who recommended this for book club at work said it was like the best book she's ever read. I wouldn't say it's the best book I've ever read. I mean, it's a nice book. It's about a like a Hollywood film star who has historically not really talked about her private life much in the public eye. Basically, when she's old, she tells her story to someone about her 7 husbands. And the curve in it you find out quite early. It's like a nice pleasant book. I would say to me it's like a nice holiday read. Like if you're going on holiday, you want an interesting read that has like a good storyline to it. It's quite easily written. It's quite broken up because you've got the 7 like chapters of each husband. It was like a nice read. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was the best thing I've ever read. So like 3.5, 3? I don't know. I'm not very good at star rating. The Serial Killer's Wife by Alice Hunter. It's about a woman called Beth whose husband gets committed or gets accused, I don't know why I keep saying committed, gets accused of murdering someone, and then you soon find out that actually he's a mass murderer. What do you call them? A serial killer. It's literally on the front of the book. You find out he's a serial killer, and obviously the small town they're in, paired with obviously policemen and all sorts, their argument is that how did you not know? And obviously that's kind of like the whole storyline. It's told from her perspective. I feel like, and I don't know if this is just me being so not maternal, a lot of the time energy and storyline is focused around the potential impact of the daughter rather than of the wife, and I just don't think I care enough about small children. Honestly, I wasn't that interested. I felt like her character was a bit wishy-washy. I think it was such an interesting concept for a book, but I don't think there was enough depth in it. I would say like 2.5 stars. Like it was fine, but like it wasn't, like it was fine. This is the only sci-fi book that I've read this year, or so far this year. I picked this up in a bookshop somewhere because I genuinely didn't realise that Stranger Things was based off of books. I thought Stranger Things was an original concept designed by Netflix, and then I find out that it's a book series, and I thought that was fun, so I thought I'd give it a go. This is the original book, or the first book, sorry. It's called Suspicious Minds, and it's by Gwenda Bond. It's set before Stranger Things TV series, so it alludes to the fact that you're following Eleven's mother. I think it's Eleven's mother. It doesn't necessarily explicitly say that. And she's basically a student. She signs up to this like experiment because, you know, she gets paid to do it. And then it finds out it's like really, something's weird, something's going on, and there's like another small child involved, and someone else that they're with starting to see, you know, the plot of Stranger Things basically in their visions, and it's all a little bit strange. I actually really enjoyed it. I kind of want to read the rest of these books. And obviously you probably know what's going to happen in the later books because I assume that's what the TV series is based off of. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was kind of creepy. It didn't go like too sci-fi. It was more just like, it was almost like a thriller more than it was a sci-fi book. I really enjoyed it. I'd say it's like 4 stars. This is, I would say, my first like known romance novel. So like went into it fully knowing it was going to be a romance novel. And I thought it'd be nice just to like try a different genre and try a genre of books I don't think I'd ever really knowingly read. This is Lizzie O'Hagan's Hate at First Sight, which shockingly is about two people who hate each other who then fall in love. Kind of says what it is on the tin. It's about a woman called Kate who works for a fashion brand who she kind of doesn't believe in like everything the fashion brand stands for, but she works there because she keeps getting promised a promotion and then the promotion kind of never comes. The company then needs to do like cost saving measures and merges where she works, which is like data, back-end, website, tech, the basement as they call them, and they merge it with like the top floor, which is like all the good looking models who work in marketing, you know? So they merge those two floors together. She gets forced to work with this man who she absolutely despises. Lo and behold, they fall in love, you know? It was pretty like predictable. I could see where it was going to go. Nothing about it surprised me whatsoever, but I actually really enjoyed it. It's one of those things where I was like reading it going, why am I enjoying this? Because it's so not what I thought I would ever enjoy. I'd say it's like 4 stars. Do I want to admit to that? Yeah, let's go for it. The next book I read is Mark Haddon's The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. Now, I've watched the NT production in like 2018. NT being the National Theatre. I think it was in 2018, it might be 2019. If it ever comes back, which it does periodically, it's such a good show. So I knew what was going to happen, I knew the plot line, I knew like literally everything, but I still really enjoyed it. It's actually quite a quick read because a lot of the sections of the book are like, you can tell it's designed to like mimic the way that his brain works. It's about a child called Christopher who has Asperger's, I think it's Asperger's, and a dog gets murdered on his neighbour's front garden. And much as his dad tells the son not to do anything about it, the son goes on from this like whole investigation, which ends up like uncovering stuff about his own life. And honestly, it's so well written. It's a very, very quick read, but I really enjoyed it. 4 stars, 4.5, classic. Now, my favourite book of the year so far is the last book that I read. This is a author that I've read one of their novels before. I feel like they're slowly but surely going to fall into the same category for me as like Stephen King and Peter James and all those guys. Like a solid author who I have enjoyed all of their books. And this is T.M. Logan, The Catch. It's basically about a father whose daughter meets a man, brings him home, and then announces that they've been dating for like a few months and they're gonna get married. And the dad thinks there's something creepy about this man and just gets this like sense that there's something off about him. And then like full on launches his like private investigation into like this man. And in the process, his like life like completely unravels in front of his eyes. It was so good. Like honestly, you mean you kind of see what was gonna happen, but it was just the journey of getting there. I thoroughly enjoyed. This to me is like everything I want out of a book. 100% recommend it if it's the kind of book that you like. 5 stars. Right, so those are all the books that I've read so far in 2024. Now I'm gonna give you a quick rundown of all the books that are still on my to read list. So the book that I'm currently reading, and I'm about that far through, so I've got this tiniest amount left. This is Sister Song by Lucy Holland. A friend of mine gave me their book because I thought I'd enjoy it. It's a good book. It's kind of okay. It's basically about a far off land where there's like magic, but they've kind of separated their association with magic because they've welcomed Christianity, and the Saxons are invading and the 3 daughters have to like bring magic back and blah blah blah. It's quite predictable, but I am sort of enjoying it. I'm kind of looking forward to reading something else, if I'm entirely honest. First thing is Delia Owens' Where the Crawdads Sing. Now I picked this up honestly because I know it's a relatively well liked book because there's a TV show based off of it. So I picked it up basically because of that. I actually don't know massively what the plot's about. I'm not sure I understand the blurb, if I'm entirely honest. We've then got Gary Steingart, I think is how you pronounce the surname, Our Country Friends, which is about a group of friends who go to live in a country house to wait out the pandemic. The pandemic. And you're basically just following how that goes. I originally bought it as a palette cleanser read, but then I've got loads of palette cleanser reads. But yeah, just thought it was a nice fun little book. This one I picked up out of a friend recommendation. A friend of mine said they thought I'd really enjoy it, so I'm not gonna lie, I bought it without even reading what the blurb was about. From what I can understand, it's about a person called Marie Law who is blind, and she somehow manages to get to a German orphan, and then I can't really work out what happens after that. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to giving this a read. Another love story, like I said, I thought I would use this year to kind of really delve into different genres and try and work out what I really enjoy. So this is Before I Saw You by Emily Horton. Horton? I don't know. It's about two people who are in hospital, one of them being the woman who, Alice is her name. She's been badly burnt, so her face is actually all like wrapped up, and they get talking, they fall in love, but obviously he's never seen her face. Cute, right? Anthony Horowitz, Magpie Murders, which shockingly is about a murder and they're trying to work out who did it. Classic. We've got another, and I think this is the last one, yeah, the last kind of love novel. This is The Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight, and it's basically about two people who meet in an airport and fall in love. Lisa Stone's Taken, which is about an 8-year-old who goes missing, and yeah, it's basically about the nationwide search of trying to find her. We've then also got Hex by Thomas Old Huvelt, I think is how you pronounce her surname, and it's about a 18th century woman whose eyes are sewn, or eyes and mouth are sewn shut, and she's called the Black Rock Witch, and she's just sort of there, and I think it's about her or about her impact, I don't know. Sounded a bit rogue, so I picked it up. And then the last one is a classic author for me. This is Harlan Coben's The Stranger, which I actually don't know what it's about. I just picked it up because it was Harlan Coben. It seems like it's about a man called Adam who has like the picture perfect wife, then he meets a stranger in a bar and learns a devastating secret about his wife, and then his entire life is shattered. There you go. So those are all the books I've still got to read. They're the books that I have read so far this year. I'm hoping that was interesting. I know this has been like a little bit different for me. It's not necessarily a video I ever saw myself filming, but I did get a request for it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see me like reading any of these books are still on my to read list, they will 100% come up in vlogs and they will 100% be mentioned at some point or another. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, click subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!